grow celery, the baby cos lettuce that you see in Coles, leeks, salad onions, which they're our own varieties that we've bred for 40 years that are exclusive to us. We grow 3 types of kale and Asian vegetables. Oh, and silver beet.
Yes, thank you. Gavin from Montague Fresh. We're a family business also, who've been operating out, based out at Narre North, out the southeastern suburbs, and also have facilities in Sydney and Brisbane. We're a large apple producer and also very much so involved in the summer fruit industry and grower in the summer fruit industry. In the last 10 years in particular, we've been also concentrating on growing varieties that are proprietary and exclusive growing and marketing rights for the Montague Group.
My name's Jonathan Eccles. I'm Executive Officer of Raspberries and Blackberries Australia, which is the national peak organisation representing those groups of fruit. I also do work with the blueberry industry and the strawberry industry, so collectively they call me the berry boy. But I have a long association working with industries and associated with commercial companies in the background in research and development management and also marketing and promotions. So I've been involved in many fruit industries, including bananas, and also vegetables and potatoes in my past life.
Tell us about the story about mushrooms, because 25 years ago they were just a fungus, but now, you know, with the work you did with the mushroom business, transformed that industry into something quite different.
I think the story of mushrooms in Australia is probably a lesson for everyone. 25, 30 years ago, they were certainly very much a niche product. People went out, as you said, harvesting them. The industry started outside of Sydney in old railway tunnels. The challenge for the mushroom growers was actually to educate the consumer what mushrooms actually were and that they weren't poisonous. They worked together. They were small companies. They worked together, developed a comprehensive and ongoing consumer market research program, and then developed promotions programs which increased the consumption of mushrooms. And of course then, with the increased demand, along came the increased supply. What was interesting was that once the general public knew that mushrooms were around, the next question they had to ask is what do you do with them? So they had to go out and educate what you could eat them raw and how to cook with them. And I don't know if any of the older folk may remember the Meat for Vegetarian campaign with the with the hunky butcher. The next thing that the consumer research showed as well, we know how to eat them, but are they really good for us? And that's when they went through the health craze. Before it was actually, we heard of words like functional foods and antioxidants, and they actually found that mushrooms contained vitamin K, which is very unique amongst that fruit and vegetable group, and also developed work internationally which showed that there are certain enzymes in mushrooms which can be help in I can't say preventing breast cancer, because that's against our health claims, but if you get the drift, is that there really more consumption of mushrooms would probably help prevent breast cancer. So the story really is they've had an ongoing consumer research program. They've developed marketing strategies that respond to the findings, and the industry's grown. It's now probably the second biggest vegetable industry after potatoes in this country.
Jonathan, you're working with berries now, so let's just put that to one side for 1 second. What would be the area with the most potential, you said, to increase consumption? If you took, what thing would you like to pick up and mushroomize, and turn around?
Well, I think the positive things for berries, which are far ahead.
I'm not talking about berries, apart from berries. Just so you get sacked from the berry council, and you have to go and where would be the most attractive place for you to go to?
Well, I still have a love of vegetables. I think the range of vegetables and flavours and colours. I think the colour spectrum, as you mentioned, which I don't like using the word antioxidants and phytonutrients, because to me they're very consumer unfriendly. I much prefer to talk about the colours, because people can relate to that.
So you're actually marketing the colours?
Yes, and the variety and taste. Taste all comes down to taste.
Okay, so just coming down to taste, there's the Jazz Apple has been a huge success, and Montague Orchards have got the license to grow that in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit about the story there, Gavin?
Certainly. Jazz Apple is a natural cross between a Royal Gala and a Braeburn, and it's a very unique flavour. One of its great attributes is taken from the Braeburn parent, which is its crunchiness and crispiness, but also the flavour more so from the Royal Gala, which is its sweetness, and it has therefore a very good shelf life in the fruit bowl at home. You can put it in the fruit bowl for weeks and still eat it, and it remains very crunchy. And I think that's one of the resounding comments we're receiving back from consumers, that they're able to eat it and they're buying multiple kilos, up to 3 kilos. They're reporting back to us at one time, and not wasting any of that. So it's been a fantastic apple to promote.
Excuse my ignorance, but how big would you have to be to take on a license to grow something? Like just say like a type of broccoli or a type of Brussels sprout or?
Yes, generally we're looking for growers to have a minimum of 4 hectares, 10,000 trees really, looking at about 3,000 trees per hectare. So that's generally where we've started. There's 29 growers around Australia growing Jazz apples, and we've got some 550 odd thousand trees in the ground now.
Is it difficult getting to do the contract negotiation, or is it a standard contract that hits you and goes, you're going to do this, you're going to grow it like this and sell it like this?
Yes, there is a standard, and we're actually very. We've got an influx. We've got lots of where there's an expression of interest to grow, and we have many of those currently in the system.
Okay, so you've got some more jazz happening.
Yes, so there is a cap.
Okay.
And the cap has recently just been lifted a little, and so expressions of interest are coming in again now.
So what did the Jazz do to your sales? Was that to your business? Did it actually push it? Did you have to get more staff, or do you have to invest more to get to plant more? How did it work for you?
Yes, initially there's a big capital outlay, and Montague themselves were one of the first to plant Jazz, and has of the 550,000 trees, nearly 200,000 of those planted. So absolutely, there was a big capital investment at the initial stages.
So a good relationship with the bank manager.
Yes.
Deborah, you're out on the urban fringe at Clyde, growing some. That soil is sensational for growing root vegetables out there. You've got some strong views on the long-term promotion of certain sectors in promoting the consumption of vegetables, starting at a young age.
Yeah, well, I believe that you need to start probably, like I said, with the children that are in kindergarten stage, because I find they have a natural curiosity for the product. They're interested in how it's grown, and when you educate children, especially in group environments, they're keen to try things and show their friends that they're trying things, and then they're keen to get their parents involved as well. We've done a few tours on the property, on the farm, and the kids just love it. They take produce home for their parents and all that sort of thing. So I think you really need to start really young.
Okay, and do you do that yourself? Do you actually do hands-on training with the kids?
I do school trips come out.
Okay, so is that pro bono?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so how many of those would you have a year?
We just do it. We do like a couple of primary schools, special needs schools, and then also we go higher up into the schools that offer agriculture courses at their school in VCE.
So you're now looking for 20 years before 18 years before they start buying Corrigan leeks.
Yeah, but I believe you've really got to start with the children.
You said you're going to be on a cruise by that stage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you said urban development, yeah.
Well,
we're being surrounded at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a hard life being a farmer.
But you said that there's also the rise of farmer being the personality. That people like yourself have to get up and stand up and represent the industry, but also the business, the sector. So you're taking time out to do that. You're seeing the rise of the farmer.
I find that people are very interested in what we do on the farm. We've got a farm Facebook page, and that just started off as something small that I just started, and it's just grown and grown and grown. And I find that people are interested in the workers, how we treat the workers, what sort of things we offer the workers, because we do an employee of the month, and we do all that sort of thing. Pictures of the workers out in the field, the crops, funny stories on the farm, very light, and we get a lot of interest from overseas as well.
Okay. Brian, how do the buyers and the customers in the Asian supermarkets view the Australian?
Ranges from Japan, where you might see a product like a fresh meat product, for instance, where you can literally push the button, and I mean it's almost old hat in the West now, but you literally can see right back to the producer, into other markets which are still mass markets where the provenance is not such a major importance. But like it's been discussed a number of times today, that sight right through back to the supply base is really important and increasingly important, and hence why how much of the million Chinese tourists that come to Australia are actually experiencing food, an increasing number. I mean, food is now food and food provenance, and experiencing the food, or the food experience in Victoria, Australia is very important. And again, once they get that connection, it's a connection for life. We were at a meeting yesterday in Shepparton, and very experienced Chinese government officers in town at the moment, and has been working on quarantine and imports for many, many years. But when she actually saw the investment that companies are making and the quality of the fruit, she said, I've been in this game for a long time, but actually seeing is believing. And I mean, it's just so fundamentally important.
Yeah, and I think when we started doing, we thought the staff would think, oh, that was pretty, lame, but they actually started nearly lobbying for it, like politics, and trying to get the votes. So it's been really interesting, but they really enjoy it. It's been really good.
Okay.
I think it's not just that people looking for healthy food or anything like that, but they're looking for the experience, the story, the experience of food.
So my question to the panel is, are supermarkets interested in innovation? And if they're not, where do growers go?
Because if you look at the tomato industry, which I've been involved in for many years, I remember there was only one type, which was a round, hard tomato, tasteless. There are now 27 PLUs for tomatoes in Australia, and outstrips any other fruit and vegetable on that fresh produce line. So you looked at the innovation there of new varieties. And some are actually taste better than the old ones. But you've got colours, variation from orange to chocolate, and different colours of reds and shapes and trusses. So I think there's innovation in certain categories, but certainly from some of the old, what I call mature lines. Having worked in the banana industry, I found it very frustrating to get innovation. The only innovation that ever happened was the red tips, which was really about demonstrating an environmental management system on those particular farms. But there's huge potential for bananas in innovation, different types, but the system probably didn't allow it so easily as it does with tomatoes.
It can be hard to work with the supermarkets on innovations, because we come up with lots of different ideas all the time, and depending on who the buyer is at the time, or even what supermarket you're dealing with, it can be very hard to get a new line up or a new idea. They can cut you down very quickly.
And following on from that Jazz example, the Jazz variety is owned by New Zealand, and Montagues aren't allowed to export, but Thailand is a relatively large apple market, and when that product was introduced, when the exporters first went to Thailand, they didn't have much hope for a big success, because the taste profile wasn't what they considered Asian palate to be, which was a sweet apple. And yet, by appointing a very innovative company to be the lead importer, they went from 1 container in the first year and with a very modest promotional budget, but the difference that they did was they promoted it as a lifestyle apple, not as a sweet apple, but as a product that you associate with wine, with cheese, with modern lifestyle, with young people. 1 container, 10 containers, 200 containers in a 3-year period for a product which the taste profile in principle wouldn't have, you wouldn't have thought it would have sold well. So the innovation there wasn't in the variety, it was actually in the way it was marketed.
You did the cost for Coles? Did you do the twin pack? Brilliant. Was that your idea?
It's funny, we were doing baby cos in twin packs, and I've got prototypes from 20 years ago, but the market wasn't ready for it at the time. So sometimes the market's not ready for a line. We've probably been one of the first ones to do the twin packs for years now.
Because one's never enough, 1 baby cos never enough, and 2's
Well,
just right.
it's a good product because it'll stay in the fridge. You take one, or you can use both of them, and it's become, now it's a staple. It's a commodity product, like iceberg lettuce.
So if I use Envy as an example, a new apple variety that we're starting to plant now. It's very sweet and quite a large piece of fruit, and so the tree cap for that, Daniel, is much lower than that of Jazz. So that, yes, that will be focused on certain demographic areas and looking at certain stores and certain demographics. In the case of our crock egg plums, we're planting for both domestic and export supply, and going to Asia Fruit Logistica and taking fruit from the same varieties that are grown with our partners at Kingsburg in the US, and taking the fruit, getting them to take the fruit to Asia Fruit when we don't have the fruit growing here in Australia now, and being able to show our customers exactly the same varieties that we are growing, and being able to give them the taste of that fruit before we're actually producing the fruit here. I think what we're doing with the plum category is giving a consistent eating quality from middle of November through to the end of March, and it's all being marketed under one brand, and therefore every week you can go in and guarantee that you're going to get an excellent piece of eating piece of fruit. And currently in the plum category, there's some fantastic varieties, and then there's some not so much. And as Brian alluded to earlier on, if someone gets that piece of fruit that's not quite so good, then it affects all the other varieties that are coming through after. And so the work in the plum category is giving a consistent, good eating experience right throughout the season.
Hopefully you now know that the Horticulture Centre of Excellence exists, and we're here for industry development. So have a good journey back home, and thank you so much again for coming along today.